Hello and welcome to the Roadcast. This is a video essay entitled Kicker Conspiracy. Are the jab players crocked? Here's another kicker about football for your consideration. This essay was originally posted in February 2025 and has been updated to include a video form. For the purpose of illustration, the essay uses the unprecedented levels of injuries being experienced by Huddersfield Town, but it's reasonable to assert that this is not exclusive to that club and indeed is indicative of the illnesses being experienced across society by those who rolled up their sleeves to take the three-dart finish, also known as the untested experimental serum contained in the jabbing programme as rolled out from 2021. Luton Town Football Club were very proud to proclaim that all their players had been jabbed and boosted. Subsequently, their captain, Adam Lockyer, suffered 2 heart attacks on the field of play. And the slide shows the effects of the second heart attack from December 2023. English Premier League game between Luton and Bournemouth was abandoned after Luton Town's captain, Tom Lockyer, collapsed after suffering from a cardiac arrest. He is seen lying down at the centre circle. All Luton Town players were apparently vaccinated. And you can see the quote there from August the 8th, 2021, when Luton Town tweeted, "We're pleased to say all our players have been vaccinated for COVID-19. Back in 2021, I wrote an essay entitled "They Shoot Footballers, Don't They?", in which I compared the jabbing of professional footballers with that of a stable owner who buys into the quackery spun to him by a vet and has his valuable horses inoculated with an untested serum which he falsely claims is necessary for their good health. Let's be clear before we progress any further. Any and all inoculations with vaccines are founded in the keystone quackery of one Edward Jenner. Mass vaccinations of the British people were carried out in the 1800s, having been invented by Edward Jenner. Quote, Edward Jenner, 17th of May 1749 to the 26th of January 1823, was an English physician and scientist who pioneered the concept of vaccines, including creating the smallpox vaccine, the world's first vaccine. The terms vaccine and vaccination are derived from variole vaccinae, smallpox of the cow, the term devised by Jenner to denote cowpox. He used it in 1798 in the long title of his inquiry into the variolae vaccinae known as the cowpox, in which he described the protective effect of cowpox against smallpox. And then we have a slide from around that time. It states, quote, vaccination against smallpox or mercenary and merciless spreaders of death and devastation driven out of society. 3 sinister men carrying bloody knives skulk away in defeat from the heroic Jenner and his allies. So clearly this is a propaganda piece. The shortest agent of disease grumbles, curse on these vaccinators. We shall all be starved. Why, brother, I have matter enough here to kill 50. The tallest extrapolates, and those would communicate it to 500 more. The third, whose knife reads the curse of humankind, agrees, I always order them to be constantly out in the air in order to spread the contagion. Jenner, on the right, brandishing a knife reading milk of human kindness, beseeches, O brothers, brothers, suffer the love of gain to be overcome by compassion for your fellow creatures. I do not delight to plunge whole families in the deepest distress by the untimely loss of their nearest and dearest relatives. A cherub places a wreath on his head while declaring, the preserver of the human race. A bystander quips, Surely the disorder of the cow is preferable to that of the ass. A quack, through and through, Jenner's smallpox serum was based on the fraudulent notion that mankind is not created in the likeness of his maker, and that he is not within an avatar that is the vehicle in which we pass through this realm. Further, it is brain-rinsed into us that we are born as sinners and that our bodies are not closed systems which can only be breached by a direct injection into the veins of a collection of heavy metals, formaldehyde, mercury, and some spurious concoction that the pharmaceutical companies fraudulently claim to be the live viruses, and that a little dose of it will kick your immune system into strengthening you against the disease. As well as being rooted in quackery, it is a monstrous genocide by needlepoint. Whilst I have empathy for those who fell for the intense psychological manipulation as spun out through the captured government and the propaganda so complicitly pumped out by the lying mainstream media channels, I maintain that the astonishing levels of gullibility are best explained by stating anyone who took the jab without taking the time to research the demonstrable facts of vaccination is a moron. A moron can be defined as someone who has made a bad decision based on poor or false information. Not all of those jab footballers will suffer a cardiac arrest, but the massive rise in deaths of all athletes, not just footballers, is as plain as the nose on my face. However, what about those footballers who rolled up their sleeves to take the 3-dart finish, but seemingly have not been hampered by cardiovascular issues? Some are claiming that the players are suffering an unprecedented level of what is known as soft tissue injuries, and a soft tissue injury can be defined as, quote, the damage of muscles, ligaments and tendons throughout the body. Common soft tissue injuries usually occur from a sprain, strain, or a one-off blow resulting in a contusion or overuse of a particular part of the body. Soft tissue injuries can result in pain, swelling, bruising, and loss of function. By way of example, this season, by which I mean the 2025-26 season, Huddersfield Town Football Club has suffered a long injury list of players who have each suffered these types of injuries. However, not one of the fans or the observers of the game is asking this question. What untested medical intervention was carried out on the population in the last 4 years, and could this have had any effect on the players' health? After all, given the nature of the sport, is it not the case that the professional footballers are usually known to have high levels of fitness and endurance? The following screenshots are from this season, and it's manifestly the case that the club, Huddersfield Town, is continuing to experience an unprecedented level of injuries to its players. Some of the comments refer to training and/or physiotherapy and issues as if the crisis is a consequence of the staff's training techniques and/or the fault of the physiotherapists, with others claiming that the medical examinations were at fault for not picking up on any underlying injuries affecting those players who had been recently signed. These slides are taken from the Huddersfield Town Fans Forum down at the MAC. The first one is dated the 4th of October 2025, and it lists a number of players who were unavailable for the Stockport game. Unavailable today against Stockport due to injury or not match fit: Chapman, Bolker, Watmuff, Evans, Miller, Kane, Alves, McGuane, Redmond. Leaves 18 of the first team squad available. Considering we have gone into October without playing a game yet, that is shocking. The fitness and medical team seriously need looking at. Something just can't be right. Last season was a different coach and different players, and this season we're having the same issues. Oh, I wonder what might be causing them. The next slide states, central midfield is looking increasingly thin. Ledson, rumoured dodgy knee. Kasumu usually picks up a soft muscle injury at some point. Kane, long term. McGuane, arrived unfit, groin injury. Evans, not played. Back on grass. hasn't looked anything like the player we thought he was going to be anyway. That yet again we're in an injury-hit situation is beyond ridiculous, though. I don't think we've been in a position to name a proper, full-strength first 11 and subs for about 3 years. And the reply to that stated, no, 6 for 2 positions is more than enough, but 2 out of the 6 aren't good enough to be part of a promotion-winning squad, in my opinion. Our injuries have been excessive since our relegation from the Championship, and underneath that, the reply states, far longer than that. 2022 to 23 is when it started. The season after, the relegation season, was ridiculous. A thin squad down to 12 fit players on more than one occasion. Last season continued the trend, not helped by the mentality that existed within the squad. In 2020 to 21, we had a myriad of injuries. So one season in 6 where we've not had an injury crisis, and which led to a tilt at the top flight. The season he's referencing there was the 21-22 season, and I'm no medical expert, but could it not be the case that the death shots that the players took are in most cases a slow death? That the illnesses and the problems caused by the untested serum may not become apparent until sometime after the jab's been taken. And this is why I state that, if I was the devil and if I wished to kill huge swathes of humanity, the best way to do it is undoubtedly by needlepoint, by the direct injection of the poison into the veins of billions of people. And then, of course, if they pass away some years later, people will not make the connection. What you can call it is plausible deniability. And the final slide, this is from the 9th of October, states, we are really missing some of these injured lads. Reply, we may not see 2 of them again this season. I understand that because of the nature of the injuries to Alves and Redmond, the expected recovery time, including getting back to match fitness, the club are looking to see if there is some leverage in terminating the loan deals. The Alves one is a freak injury that the training pitch conspiracy theorists would lap up. The reply, isn't the training ground pitch supposed to be exactly the same composition as the one at the stadium? It still wouldn't surprise me if his studs/blades were caught in the pitch when the injury occurred. So you can see there that the fans are clearly incapable of putting 2 and 2 together and reaching a conclusion based on the question, well, if we're suffering all these injuries, what mass event, what mass inoculation program was rolled out in 2021, and what were the long-term consequences of that? Remember, it's an untested serum, so they've no idea what the long-term consequences are, but you can rest assured the overall aim of those who wish to cull the herd is to slowly kill people off. So nobody really questions. I mean, if it all happened instantly, then more and more people would have woken up to the perfidy of the jab rollout. So my question is this. Given these unprecedented levels of injury, could it be the case that the jab players have suffered a decline in their bodily health and general levels of athleticism as a consequence of the injections? From which arises the question, have the players been crocked, and what are the implications for the sport? I'd posit that this is most likely, and that by insisting that their prize assets take the needle, the clubs have effectively and most foolishly destroyed the health of their players, and that the consequence will be a continued decline in the club's fortunes. Stupid is as stupid does, and the Freemasonic owners of the football clubs have effectively committed a form of harakiri, which is defined as ritual suicide by disembowelment with a sword, formerly practiced in Japan by samurai as an honourable alternative to disgrace or execution. It's from the Japanese hara, belly and kiri, cutting. Whilst you might say, oh, well, that's just a ridiculous comparison, I would say yeah, but up to a point, because it is not the case that each of these footballers has been stabbed by a needle containing a deadly serum or poison that has led to their various illnesses and demonstrably caused levels of fitness issues that are off the charts. And we've got a slide there which shows a gladiator, and at the top it says, "Football team loses," and it's an angry gladiator who's ready to take action. And then underneath you've got some sheeple. "Government destroys your business, family and health." And they are standing there as placid as sheep. Whilst the vast majority of fans remain in complete willful ignorance of the genocide by needlepoint, even when fellow supporters have experienced heart attacks in the stands next to them and family members are in poor health, no one will put two and two together and work out the connection between players' injuries and being in receipt of the experimental serum. Effectively, the supporters are watching 22 vaccine-injured players kicking around a bag of wind on a Freemasonic set, and at some point the crowds will dwindle as the spectacle of watching the Walking Dead pass the ball around in triangles becomes a moribund experience in which they have no interest. It is not so much death by 1,000 cuts as death by 3 jabs. As ever, thank you very much for your attention and for reading this essay. I'm very grateful to those who have chucked a few quid into the coffers by way of the Buy Me a Coffee button and or have taken out a subscription to my Substack pages, where, if you like, you can also support me by taking out a paid subscription, which will give you first dibs, as it were, on my output.